Take a look at the level of support for women footballers as the Wafcon tournament is underway. But first, a look at our question of the day. And what we want to know from you is, why is public and financial support for African women football teams still lacking despite the improving quality of their performance? You can let us know your thoughts on Facebook, where we are SABC Unwrap Africa. Alternatively, find us on X. We are SABC News_TV. Hello again. Women football has been the topic on everyone's lips since the start of the Women's African Cup of Nations on the 25th of July, with women football then on the rise. Pundits have called into question the amount of support and resources that are put into the sport. Some quarters have argued, in fact, that the light that basically shines brighter for male counterparts as opposed to the women teams has, in fact, been discouraging. Let's talk further about this now. We're joined by two guests on the program this evening, Judith Chime and Kabo Zita, to talk about women's football on the continent. My thanks to you both. Judith, I think it's only fair that I let you have the first bite of the cherry and get your assessment of the state of women's football in Africa today.
Thank you so very much for having me on your show. I really feel honored. I must tell you, being abroad and staying in the US and watching women's soccer in Africa, it's a thing of appalling. It's something one cannot comprehend. I mean, we've come of age for us to still be going through what we're going through. I'm looking at the Wafcon right now, and I see in the stadium, you can count people in the stadium. And it's so sad that African supporters or African companies don't seem to understand that supporting the girls football really matters. But when you talk about the men, they're pumping money throughout, and whatever millions they want to throw out there just to make sure the men work. But they forget this game is actually the same game. We're both playing the same thing. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at Wafcon, and it just looked like I'm looking at a child game, not something international. You look at the stadium look like you can pretty much count maybe 10, 15 people. But when Morocco plays, you see people in the stand. So I'm asking the question, when would Africa actually come together and start doing the needful? Both the men and the women will play size 5. Both the referees that officiate the game officiate the same thing that we play. If they give them red card, they give the women red card. So what is different from the game? That's my question. I played this game way back in the 80s, and I'm not happy about it. There's no improvement.
I was going to bring in Kabo, but Judith, on just the start of your football career then in the 80s, compared to us where things stood when you started out and where we are then in 2026, do you see any positive or upward movement in terms of support by the public and, let's say, commercially?
No, I don't. I mean, back then when we played, I know we were playing for the country. We had the pride. We had the passion. We wanted to make a statement. We know there was no money then, and we know we just starting off, and we expected that maybe someday, sometime, but not now in the 21st century, and we're still where we are right now. The only country that you can see that in Africa you can really look at, you can believe that they're actually doing something meaningful, look like it's Morocco. And I don't know any other country I can mention, but for me, I see like Morocco is the only team right now that is really showing that the team deserves to be flourish. I mean, think about it. We play size 5. Why do they have to treat us less? Why?
Kabo, let me bring you into the conversation. Why do you think we're still seeing such, shall we say, lackluster support for African women football teams more generally?
Yeah, good evening once again. And to be quite honest with you, I fully agree with Judy, because now it's very sad to look at Wafcon that is taking place right now in Africa, which we're having the biggest continent ever, and we are not even supporting the narrative of us being Africans and playing the game to the best of our abilities to compete internationally, because this tournament is so built up to improve the talent that we have in Africa, to go and compete at the World Cup against all odds. But with us women, football is not supported that much. And I don't see any much of a change. right
Why
now.
is that? Why is the
because-
support still lacking? Cabo? Okay, I think we've lost Cabo. Actually, Judith, let me come back to you. You referenced Morocco as an example of a country that you believe is in fact pouring into women football, right? Is that problem,
Yes.
the issue of a lack of support, is it country specific?
You know, to be honest, I don't know if I have to say it is country thing or it's just people just feel like the women don't deserve the support that they need. But when you look at other countries, and to be honest, I'm not trying to digress, right? If we look at the way soccer is going right now, African players are the best in the world. We have all the talent, we have everything, but we're missing that one thing, the support. And it's only in Africa that when you're getting ready for a tournament, 2 weeks or 1 day before the tournament, they call you to camp. But when every other part of the world get ready for the tournament, they get ready at the normal time. And what do you expect? Every continent give their athletes the support that they need, the female teams and everything. But when it comes to Africa, they don't care. It seems like we're just participators. We're not there to compete. We're not there to give any country a fight. We're just there to make the numbers. And that's how I look at it. And I feel like where we are today, we need to come out of it because Africa is a continent that has everything that they want, everything that anybody can ask for. And I think we've come of age for us to still be hanging in and waiting for the men to do the thing. And to be honest with you, sometimes I try to ask myself the question, when you talk about all those first ladies, all those governors, all those chairmen, and all, they all have wives. When you look at what the men are doing, the men pump in money to support the event. What happened to the women? Are they not first lady of their country? Are they not supposed to be doing the same thing their husbands are doing? Africans have the money to support anything. FIFA send in money when it's time for tournament. Same thing goes to CAF. So what are they doing with the funding? Why not give the funding that is meant for the women to the women and also find a way to make the marketing work better and so the women can get this visibility that the men are getting? You pay the men better and see we get peanut and see we get sharp and still we're not even being acknowledged the way we're supposed to be acknowledging. Women giving all they got with all the pride and everything. Men just give minimum. And these men make millions. These women don't make nothing. They give minimum.
Let me ask you then, Judith. Let me ask you, can the argument still be made? I mean, I'm sure having played from the 80s, you've heard this said time and time and again, but is there still any truth to the argument that ultimately the quality or lack of quality of the game played by the women's teams is why there isn't, for example, the same commercial support as with the men's football? Does that have any merit in today's day and age on the continent specifically?
And when you talk about that argument, you're only talking about African. That's just the argument for African continent, not around the world. I refuse to take that argument as something that the whole world actually agreed to. Look at take US, for instance, where I am right now. The women team are more, they get more than the men, the visibility. It is actually now that they start paying the women what they pay the men because they're doing the same thing the men are doing. It is only in Africa, it's just the African mentality that they believe that women are meant not to be doing what men are doing. But ask me a question, I'll tell you this. Women are also the one bringing much glories to the countries. So why are you going to sideline the women? So it's about time the African continent, all the ministers, all the people running football in every part of African nation, they need to put their particular aside and just see us as people who are willing to bring that victory to the country because we deserve it. We deserve it. We ought to be actually acknowledged as people who are fighting to make the nation look better. Not just the way they look at it as and feel like, okay, yeah, these are girls, they're not going to do this. Those girls, they bleed like the men bleed. Those girls, they get hurt like the men get hurt. So what is different? That field, they don't call us to run maybe a different field. The field that the men play is where we play. Whatever run they make is what we make. So what is the difference? Why are we making that mistake? Why are we making the mistake? If we lose today, we're not going to the World Cup.
Right.
If they lose today, they're not going to the World Cup. So what is the difference?
And on that point, I want to ask you about two changes for this year's Wafcon then. Judith, Kabo, I see you're back, but we're almost out of time. Judith, just lastly then, two changes now with Wafcon. 16 teams are playing for the first time. The prize money for the winners has gone up from $1 million to $2 million. Is that a sign of the change that we've been calling for? Are we beginning to see that take place? Women in African football being taken more seriously based on those two changes?
I'll say I'm very grateful that they actually made that little change in terms of giving from 1 million to 2 million. But I ask you a question: is that what they're giving the men?
No, it's not.
Exactly. So how much are they giving the men? Remember, they say 1 million to 2 million, right? So just ask yourself the question. I'm sure the men are making maybe 20 million. And they're going to opt it to 40 million. What makes them get 40? Or what makes them get 20? Are they playing size 10? We're playing size 5. They're playing size 5. Are they running the field better than we do? No. We run the same race that you're running. So what is so different? The question here is, they just need to, I'm so grateful that they actually took that turn to actually make the money increase a little bit. But I think we deserve better. We deserve better. And I promise you, by the time the African continent actually show more time and show more commitment to the women's team, I promise you, every other country will hear of African continent. I promise. I'll put my money on it any day, anytime. Because African talent, you can beat it. You cannot beat it. You cannot beat it.
Kabo, we had lost you. I want in 30 seconds, now that we've got you back, how do we improve support for the African women football teams going forward so that we're not having this conversation during the next Women's World Cup or the Wafcon?
My take is that there shouldn't be lack of interest, towards the game, especially for women taking place in the men's game. I think that it's only fair for especially us Africans to support one another, to go forward, because now we are competing for the World Cup, So we want to see more teams in the World Cup from Africa and going to the last 16, So how are we going to do that if we're failing to support the mere tournament that is in our own soil in Africa? How can we not support such a biggest tournament ever? Like, stadiums are empty. It's very sad to see that platform that is so taken, like, underestimated, and we are playing to go for the international games, which is the World Cup, and it's a bigger stage there. So if we can support each other as Africans here at home, it's only African teams, but there's nobody at the stadium. We know that the tournament has been postponed before, and maybe that made people not to follow what is going to happen next, whether the tournament is next month or next year or when. Maybe that also played a big role, but still, we needed to have numbers at the stadium so that we show that we support our sisters, because if football is football, then it brings people together at the end of the day.
Kabo, thank you so much. Judith, thank you to you as well for joining us this evening on a conversation regarding the compensation and support for African women football teams. And it's actually a question to you on Unwrap Africa this evening. We want to know, why is public and financial support for these African women football teams still lacking despite the improving quality of their performance? Let's look at some of your feedback.